Today, I want to paint a picture of a dog named Hudson. I'm doing it for as a Christmas card. So it's a card, and there's the finished painting of Hudson. And I don't really know Hudson except for through YouTube, because his owners, James and Karla, have a channel that I watch a lot. And I did a picture of Hudson once before, a digital picture. This time it's with gouache on a card. So it's going to be their Christmas card, and I'll show you how I did it right now. Okay, let's get started on this card. I'm looking forward to this. So we want to put Hudson. I'm trying to think, do I want to make a big face or like more of a body and face? You know what I think I want to put? I don't know if I want to put a Santa hat on him. You know why? Because I like his ears. His ears are so expressive. So maybe I'll just put like snowflakes in it to make it Christmassy. What do you think? All right, so let's just start. I'm going to use a pencil. Now, if you were using watercolor, you probably wouldn't want to use a regular graphite pencil. You would be better served by using a watercolor pencil, and probably would choose a color that is going to be in line with the colors you plan on using in the picture. But I'm using a graphite pencil, first of all, because I don't know what I did with my watercolor pencils. I'm not a very organized guy. But the other thing is I'm using gouache, and today I'm going to use Artist's Loft. This is the brand I'm using, Artist's Loft. And gouache is more opaque than the watercolor, so the pencil may or may not show through. But you know what? Ultimately, it's a work of art. So, and I got to remember where the card folds. Sometimes I can't see it when I'm sitting here doing the video part of it. Making a video makes it a little bit challenging because I have to do it slightly at an angle. But anyway, I can't see that fold, so I'll put a little line there. Now I can see it better. Oh, much better. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to draw. All right, so let's just put Hudson on here. Get the top of his head. Little guy. I love watching their videos. I've never met James and Karla in person, but they feel like friends. Robin has spoken to Karla on the phone, and so they feel like friends to me. One day, I love watching them. You know, they're just a joy, and Hudson makes it awesome. Hudson makes it awesome. So, all right. So now I'm sketching here, just trying to get. He's got that white line in front of his head, and now that's not his ear right there. By the way, that's part of his ear. I'm trying to think how to do that. This. Let me just go down the side of his face first, and then I'll go back. That's not his ear. No, his ear goes more like this. Okay, I'm having fun here. Can you tell? Okay, I might have to. Now see this? This is my nifty eraser. I think I already made a mistake. So just go ahead and get rid of that line. All right, let's go back to, and this is the way I always work, whether it's digital or traditional. Like this is traditional. I did a digital painting of Hudson sitting at the beach in Miami. I made up the scene, and I used a picture from one of their videos, a screenshot, as the reference photo. So there you go over there, and let's go down here. See, this is why I didn't want to put the hat, because the ears are so expressive. Anybody who has a dog with ears, I know all dogs have ears, but you know what I mean, some dogs have more expressive ears. So, okay, here's Hudson. That little white stripe goes down, and there it goes there, and then it goes around like that. And this part of his face comes down like that. I'm just enjoying doing this. And his eye, let's see, his eye is about there. So very expressive eyes too. The story that Karla and James tell about how they got Hudson. Oh, I've already found another mistake I did on this here. The story that they tell about how they found Hudson in Miami at a shelter is, you think about how many dogs are put down just because nobody wants them. Well, they wanted him. And wow, is he such a beautiful dog. I love watching their videos and love hearing their stories. I love how they're so positive. They support the local businesses and wherever they are, in New York mostly, but they're in Florida also. Hey, they've supported me. I'm a small business in a way. You know, they have. I didn't intend for that to happen, but they did. I think I made Hudson's eye a little too big. So this is why it's important to sketch first. Get a good sketch, and then you'll be happy with your painting. So yeah, I don't think they know this channel, the Papa Paints channel, because it's kind of new. Well, it's very new actually. But I wanted to do a channel called Papa Paints. I'll tell you part of the reason why, even though I show digital on this page or this channel. The reason why is because I had, after AI came around, even before AI, when it was just digital, a lot of people somehow thought that there was no real art skills involved. And I guess I shouldn't be so sensitive, but I didn't like when people were assuming that it was just done with a computer. You know, that was the part that bothered me. So I still do digital art. You have to do digital art in today's world. There's too many things that need to be done quickly, and a lot of people don't really want art. They just want an illustration. But digital art is art. It's not just illustrated. And boy, oh boy, you can ask 10 people and you'll get 10 different answers. But the one I'm going to give you is this. There is a huge difference between art and illustration. And illustration is a work of art. But it's not fine art. Now, I've told this story before, so I'll tell it again, and this may help explain what I'm trying to say. When I was a teenager, when I was in high school in New York, I was an artist. I was always an artist. When I was a little kid, I was always drawing things, and so that's kind of always been my thing. So I had that skill. It was probably the only thing I was half good at, was art. So I like the eye. Okay, I think I got that eye. Okay. So anyway, so in school, they try to groom you for a career that you're going to have when you get out of school. And if you have art skills in the 60s, and you live in New York, because New York was the capital of so many things, especially fashion and advertising. And that's where I'm going to go with you, advertising. So the advertising field, profession, is where I was being groomed to go. Okay? He's starting to happen. Okay, so this is what they told us. They told us that because in the 60s, photography was not new, but it was definitely taking over in advertising, because previously in advertising, everything was done by artists. Everything was illustrated. But by the time I was, getting close to 10th grade or whatever, the art teachers were telling us that when we get the job on Madison Avenue, which if I had actually gone that direction, my life would have been totally different, I guess. But we would be drawing floating underwear. Now, what is floating underwear, do you say? Well, here's the thing. Back then, because photography was taken over, if you had a car to sell, there was no longer an illustration of a car. There was a photo of a car. If you had a toy to sell, there was no longer an illustration of the toy. There was a photo of the toy. Anything you had to sell, the illustration was no longer needed because they put a photograph in there. You can't blame them. It helped way better to illustrate for the potential buyer what they were going to get, right? You're going to buy a toy, you want to see what the toy looks like. And the photograph did a better job of showing it than an illustration. Potentially. Okay, I'll put a little asterisk. Does that look like Hudson? I think so. All right. It looks like Hudson. All right, so photographs, however, were not used in underwear. I am telling you, this is what they told us. So they told us, let me see, Hudson is, he looks gray, I know, but he's not gray. Hudson is not gray. Hudson is, I know you're going to laugh at this, but he's kind of an orange, and then you tone down that orange with the blue. That's what I'm going to try to do. Now, if it doesn't work, I might add some burnt sienna. And I have my white. I have a big tube of white. This is a different company, by the way. This is called Artists. Oh, no, this is, what's the company? Oh, M. Graham and Company. Can you see it? I buy big white because the white goes quickly in my world. All right, so there's my Hudson sketch. Let me move it up so you can see it better. Can you see it? All right. Now here's my palette. Let's see if I can get Hudson's color on here. I'll show you why I say. You can see the blue in Hudson. Whoa. That looks like I haven't opened it in a while. It's got a nasty thing on there. That's okay. It'll work out. All right. Now let's take this orange. Ooh. Gosh, I must not use these in a while. So the rest of the story was this, that they wouldn't take photographs of people in underwear. So we were told they would use, and you couldn't even do illustrations of people in underwear. The underwear had to be floating as if somebody was wearing them. Let's see if this is going to work. I might not use this. See, it works with acrylics. It might not work with gouache. Damn. All right, let's just try this. Before I put any paint on the paper, I want to make sure I have the right color. Oh, see, that's starting to look... That is starting to look like Hudson's color. It sure is. See, it is working. I didn't think it would work on gouache. So I keep distracting myself. So if you think about having a career where all your time is spent drawing floating underwear, does that sound exciting? Especially if you're a 10th grader? Gosh, no. You know what was happening at that time? Rock and roll was happening. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to be the Beatles. I wanted to be the next rock and roll star. So, hey, music and art are not that different. So I went from, I was always into music also, by the way. It wasn't that was anything new. But I kind of made a choice that I was going to pursue music more than I was the art. I am going to use this. And the reason I chose music over art is because, simple, as I just said, I didn't want to be painting floating underwear the rest of my life. Yeah. Now, little did I know that in the future there would be something called video games. And video games are great place for artists now. There's so much that you can do in the video game world. Yeah, see that little bit of burnt, what is this called? Burnt sienna. That little bit of burnt sienna helps a little bit. But I'm telling you, Hudson is, I'm gonna get these light colors in here first. And I'll go for the darker ones. And then what I want to do is I want to put some snowy look in here. Oops, that's too light. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing on the palette here. Yeah, so nowadays, if you're an artist, you can make a pretty good living working in the movie industry and in the video game world. A lot of artwork available there. Okay. Let's paint it in. I'm roughing it in so that I can have an idea of what I want to do. One day I'd like to meet you, Hudson boy. Meet you in person. You have given me so much joy by watching the videos. So a lot of times what I'll do is if I'm working on digital art, one of the things I like about digital art is I can sit in my recliner and work on the art at the same time. So I have been known to turn on James and Karla and listen to what they say. I do a lot of listening, and then I'll look up every now and then. Yeah, so I'm mostly listening to them. I'm just trying to get the dark areas here, and over here under his ear, the shadow of the ear. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and dive into his eye right now, and I'll do the fix-ups later. The eyes and the ears tell everything on the dog, right? Dogs talk with body language. I know you know that. I know you know that for sure. That's another thing I like about watching James and Karla. They really know their music. And I've learned a few things about artists that I thought I knew just by listening to them. Right now this is looking very stylized. I kind of like the stylized look, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna try to take it all the way. Oops. Make sure I get it darker. Yeah, I try to stay away from the black when I'm using the paint. I use the black. I use the black sometimes digitally, and I use the black sometimes with pastel. Well, not with pastel so much. Actually, probably hardly at all. Black on pastel is horrible because it just, the dust gets everywhere. Trying to get this. See, he looks gray, but he's not gray. He's got that blueness to him. Either that or my eyes are going bad. Okay. And with watercolor, you know, you can use the water itself as the blending medium, and you can do that with gouache also. That's what I'm trying to do. And I kind of like doing the little bit of pointillism and a little bit of the impressionism look when I'm doing painting. I don't do that with watercolor, but I use it with gouache and I use it with acrylic and oil. Let's see. That's too blue. It's a fine line between that blue and. So yeah, you gotta be careful about that. But there's a dark area here. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at a reference photo that I did of a screenshot from a video that they put up there, that Karla and James put up there. Little by little, it's starting to happen. And I like the dry brush technique also with a lot of the stuff I do. I'm going to go ahead and put this in there, and then I'll lighten it up after a while. I kind of wanted to blend this area while it was still wet. Same as over here. You know what might be nice too? After I get it done, I think I might add some of the yellows and the oranges just to give that look of some warmth. Let me see how that works out. Let me do one thing at a time. You know, it's kind of interesting how that blue is working out. Sometimes a little bit exaggerated, so there's a little bit of an interesting look happening right there. Anyway, so I have when James and Karla go to New York from Florida and go back one way or the other, they often will stop at Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is a store, whatever, like a, I don't know what you call it. I don't know if it's called a truck stop, but you know, it's like one of those places. Remember Stuckey's if you're old enough, and do you remember? Was it called Horns? What was that place called? There was a couple places back when I was younger that you would go to. When you're driving down the road, you want to stop and use the bathroom, and you want to get something to drink or a little snack that you probably shouldn't be eating, but you're just so bored with the drive. You're just so bored with the drive that you just have to stop. So Buc-ee's is a popular one nowadays. They have some, they're big, they're huge. We're getting one here in Ocala soon. It's not here yet, but anyway, the one they stop in, I think it's, I know there's one in Daytona and there's one in St. Augustine. I think they go to, I think I've seen them at both of them. But Robin and I have been, when we know they're coming around, we say, oh, we should go over and see if we can bump into them and say hi in person. Like I say, Robin chatted with them, with Karla on the phone. And that was because I did a painting of Hudson, a digital painting. was fun to do too. He's coming around. He's coming around. I think he's amazing because they're amazing. They're good stewards of their pet, their beautiful pet. I don't have a dog. I've had dogs pretty much all my life, and Robert has too. But as we got older, it's so hard when the dogs pass away. It's just so sad. And so plus we're older, and part of being older is you have children who don't live with you anymore, so you want to go visit them. And that's the problem. You gotta have the ability to go visit them, and sometimes the dog would have been. It's unfair to the dog, I think, sometimes, for people in our circumstance. He's looking pretty good. I'm liking him. I'm liking the way he's coming up here. Okay. There's around his eye. This is really still blocking in, though. I'm really still just blocking everything in. I'll come back and get some of the details in a little bit. Hopefully in a little bit. Hopefully I don't take too long with this. But, the idea of art is to enjoy what you're doing, and whether you're doing a portrait of a dog or a floral arrangement. I don't ever do floral arrangements. I see a lot of people doing them online. What do you think? He's looking like Hudson. He's looking like Hudson. There's a little bit over there. And it's interesting, some of the other followers or viewers of James and Karla, it's like you become friends with that community. If you watch them long enough, then they get to know you. If you comment, then they get to know you, and you get to know them, and it is, I guess it's a way of having a social life when you're kind of a recluse like me. Not Robin. Robin's not a recluse. Probably why Robin was the one who spoke to Karla. Is that even the word, recluse? Is that the word we use? All right, let me get some of this. Just make this very light here. The area down here under the dog's neck. Oops. Some of the blue's coming through. Let me get a different brush. Again, I'm still blocking it in. Trying to make sure I got the lines correct from my sketch. Sometimes you have to correct the sketch even after the sketch is gone. But anyway, speaking of the sketch, you notice how the pencil marks are pretty much no longer visible. I don't like this brush. It's too soft. Get a harder one. Yeah. Robert and I did radio for so long here in Central Florida that people who knew us through the radio show are the way I sort of feel that James and Karla must feel about their list or their viewers. Because when you do a radio show, you have listeners and they feel like they know you. And I guess it's sort of like being famous, you know, in a small time way, but it's still, people are people. We like to, that's why I always wonder when somebody's really famous. We don't know John Travolta, but he lives here in our town. And I always wonder about that. I mean, does he, if I ever see him, is he going to be annoyed that I say, hey, I know you? Because he won't know me. You know? Hudson is famous. If I ever see Hudson, I'll say, hey, I know you, and he'll just wag his tail. He'll say, oh, okay, well, that's good. I'm glad you know me. Glad you know me. Glad you know me, Papa. That's what my grandson calls me, Papa. That's why this is Papa Paints. I did this so that, you know, maybe one day these videos will be available and I won't. And this way he can see his Papa. I hope. Well, actually, I hope I'm around. I don't really hope I'm not around. That didn't sound good, did it? No. I think Hudson's coming around here, huh? Gotta keep blending the dark and the light. Make sure I'm not messing up with the lights and the darks. He's coming around. He's coming around the bend. I like when James and Karla show us filming locations, video, especially music video locations. I am a real, I know, like I'll go to a movie, maybe not so much now, but when I was younger, and I would be more interested in the music in the movie than I would in the story itself. So here's the story from when I was a kid. So I went to see the movie Airport. Do you remember that movie? Dean Martin was in it. And I saw it recently, and I didn't even remember seeing the movie. But what I remembered was the music. And so I'm a teenager now, going to high school, whatever, in New York, and I have a friend named Jimmy. Jimmy comes over to the house, and I show him my new record, and it was the soundtrack to the movie Airport. And he says, you bought the soundtrack to a movie? What the heck? You know, I like that kind of stuff. But I was also into the Beatles and the Moody Blues. By the way, did you hear that Denny Lane died? Gosh, you know you're getting older when your rock star heroes are going away. Yeah. Debbie Harry is somebody that I think James and Karla know her. She was somebody I used to like a lot too. You know, another female singer that I liked a lot, kind of in that era, was Chrissie Hynde. Do you remember Chrissie Hynde? I bet you they do. Chrissie Hynde was with the Pretenders. And I just loved her edge. Is that the good way to say that? I just liked the way she had that edge to her. And I'm getting close to filling in these gaps now. And then I'll come back around and add highlights and possibly add some warm and cool. Trying to reactivate one of the dried colors on the paper plate. Okay, he's coming around. I see Hudson starting to show up in this painting. One of the things about the color of things is that quite often you can exaggerate them slightly and it'll still look good. Because when you're out in the sun, the colors that reflect off of things are the blues from the sky, the greens from the trees. They all reflect off of everything. And that's part of it too. And so in Hudson's case, I'm imagining that he's outdoors. Well, he is outdoors in the picture that Karla took of him. And he's got light coming at him from different things. Even if you're like, especially if you're out in the holidays and you get all these Christmas lights, and if you're out in the streets in the city, you got all these areas that are lit with the street lamps and even the traffic lights. Let me get another brush. Once the brush starts to tell me what color I want, I have to change it. The brush shouldn't be telling me. I should be telling the brush, right? Okay, let's add a little bit of light to the ears. They're not white, but they're reflecting light. The top of his head is some reflections going on. Right around his eye here, he's got some things going on. This is a good brush for the little details. He's got a little bit going on here. My brother is a veterinarian, and he told me one time that you can tell a dog is not feeling well because their mascara gets faded. It's not as dark. He called it mascara. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, my brother's a genius. I'm going to go ahead and put a reflection in this just to see if I like it. Oh gosh, yes, that's nice. Oh my gosh, yes, it brings it out. It's beautiful, Hudson. I start to see you now. There's another video guy I like to watch. His name is Action Kid. Oh, that's not his name. I think his name is Ken. But he's fun to watch too. Oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. First of all, he's an inspiration. If any of you want to... Robin and I do videos, but we're nowhere near like James and Karla or Action Kid. But they know their stuff, you know, when it comes to the cameras, when it comes to the location. And Action Kid goes every freaking where. Oh my gosh. I saw him in London. I saw him in China, I think. was it China or Taiwan or something? He was over there. I've seen him in New York, of course. That's his main stomping ground. I think he's from Queens. And I think Karla's from the Bronx, by the way. I think James is from Connecticut. So I started my life in the Bronx. I was a baby. I don't remember it. My parents moved the family to Long Island. I guess Long Island was a better place to raise kids. I don't know. That must have been what they thought. My father was a policeman. So in New York City. My father worked from 1952 to 1972. And it was in 1962, around 62, he was directing traffic outside of Yankee Stadium. And he got hit by a car. And it hurt him to the point where he always had this thing with his knee after that. Now, I was in 62. I was only 7 years old. But what happened was he was no longer a beat guy. He was no longer on the street. It's funny. This is a very artsy looking picture of Hudson, and I'm kind of liking it. So anyway, my father, from that point on, was an indoor policeman. He worked an office job, and the office was downtown New York City. He worked in police headquarters, and he was with dispatch. So he was the guy that would get the calls from, I don't know if they had 911 back then, but he would get the calls that that police officer was needed, and then he would make the radio call to the police cars. And it's that same building is still down there. I'm trying to think, it's on Center Street, I think. Yeah, I didn't go there very often as a kid. My father, he would go there for to pick up his check sometimes, especially like before we went on a vacation. My father, we had a camper. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the camera. Just ignore that shaky camera. But we would, he would go to his job, to police headquarters, and he would pick up his check, and we'd wait in the car. But years later, when I was an adult, I wanted to see the building again. So I went there, not knowing that it had been closed, that they had moved out. And when I got there, it was closed and moved out, and it was all gutted. They were getting ready to turn it into condominiums. And there was one security guy. He was the only guy there. And he was sitting at a desk right inside the entrance. And the whole thing was empty and gutted. And I said to him, "Can I look around? My father used to work here." And he said, "Sure, I don't care," because there was nothing there. You couldn't take anything. There was nothing to take. And so I had the opportunity to actually walk through that old building before it was made into condominiums. That was kind of cool. In today's world, everything is so high security, they probably wouldn't have allowed me to do that, even though there was nothing there. And then years later, I did a painting of my father, and I donated it to the police museum. And I don't know whatever happened to that. I'm not sure. I think the museum is on Governor's Island now, but I don't know whatever happened to the painting. The painting is called Officer Daddy because the painting is of my father holding my brother Bob when Bob was a baby. I don't think I was born yet in the photo that I used for the painting. If I was just a tiny little guy. But anyway, and you know where the picture was taken was right there in the Bronx, where my family and I guess I lived there when I was little. Like I say, I don't remember that. Okay, I'm gonna break my rule. I'm gonna use a little bit of black for the inside of Hudson's nose, I think. Wait a minute, let me try to do it without it. Let me try to just get them really dark. Use the red and the orange. I mean the blue and the orange. Yeah, I think I can do this. Just add a little bit of reflection there. Yeah, I kind of don't want to use black, but I thought maybe it would be an easy way to fix it. I'm kind of mixing the paint on the painting itself. How you doing, Hutz? You look good. You look good. The friend that I told you about that made fun of me for getting the soundtrack to Airport, he went on to become a New York City firefighter and a Long Island firefighter. I think he was the chief at the North Merrick Fire Department on Long Island. North Merrick is the town I grew up in most of my life. But he also worked for the Fire Patrol in New York City. And the Fire Patrol building is just south of Washington Square Park, I think. And it's the building, I don't know if it still is occupied, but it was the guy, the news guy. I never remember his name. He's a CNN guy. I'm not remembering his name. Oh gosh. But anyway, my friend Jimmy McCauley. Whoops, sorry. He went on to. He made great accomplishments in his life with the fire department. I remember his father and his brother were also in the fire department when I was a kid. He was much younger than his older brother. And so on September 11th, the Fire Patrol answered the call also, just like the rest of them. And one of their guys died, and his name is Keith Roma, R-O-M-A. And his number, his sacrifice is not included in the number. When they tell you the number of firefighters who died on September 11th, they don't include him, which is weird. But they don't. All right, I got Hudson done. What do you think? Does he look done? I'm going to try to add something maybe, but first I want to try to do the background. For the background of a winter background, I'm going to reactivate this dried blue here. I used it the other day, but you can reactivate gouache. That's the cool thing about gouache. Just go ahead and make it very purpley bluey. I'm just gonna, that's a little too blue. Just gonna make the background very watercolor-ish, and then I will add some, hopefully some snowflakes to it. We'll see. It's all a work in progress. See how this works. Yeah, so I helped. I tried to help Jimmy. In the little radio show Robin and I did, we started a petition campaign, and we tried to get that name, Keith Roma, added to the list. And Jimmy told us it's no good, Larry. He said, no good. They're never going to change their mind. And so far, he's been right. Every year, I wonder about it. And every year, I think if I remember right, Jimmy and the people who knew Keith all go to the place where Keith's buried, I think. You know, he died on September 11th when the towers collapsed. And they found his body, I think on Christmas Day or on Christmas Eve of that year. And he was standing. Yeah. He had helped escort people out of the building. There were people. There was a photo of him. Somebody got a photo. One of the news people got a photo, of course, before the building collapsed. And it shows him helping people down the steps of the building. So, yeah, Rob and I tried to get a campaign. You know, we're big fish in a little pond here in Ocala, but we're not big fish in the big pond. So nobody cared. Nobody wanted to hear what we had to say. Big fish in a little pond. Not anymore. We retired. We don't do that. Now what we do is we play music in the first Friday art walk of every month. Well, almost every month. They don't do it in the middle of the summer when it's hot. But that's what we do. I play the accordion. She plays the mandolin. We're not show people, we're just out there pumping some music into the streets. That's what we do. Pump music into the streets. You know what's happening here? The paper plate is picking up little pieces of paper because paper plates are not really a great thing to use as a palette, but I'm using it anyway. Well, I kind of like the way this purple and blue is working together. I like the way that's looking. It's a very artsy thing, isn't it? It's coming out nice and artsy looking. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the way it's coming out. Let me not overdo the purple. Let me make sure there's plenty of blue in there, especially down here, giving it that watercolor look. Let me just spread it out a bit. It doesn't really look like snow, though. No, not at all. So my whole idea of making a snowy background is not going to happen. But that's okay. I like the way this is looking. Here he is. It's a nice looking portrait of a handsome dog, huh? Handsome Hudson. Handsome Hudson. All right, let's let it dry. And I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking? Instead of trying to make it Christmassy and putting snowflakes in there, see if it was digital, I could experiment a little bit. I think I'll leave it just like that. I think I like it like that. So my Christmas card to James and Karla from Robin and I will not be a Christmassy looking Christmas card. It'll be a Hudson-y looking Christmas card. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. There's the Hudson Christmas card for James and Karla. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye.